Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Nicholas Samstag, mental health and business. I have the pleasure today to talk to a very, very interesting and dynamic person named Lindsey Wander. Is it Wander?
It is
Wander.
Wander, and I live up to it.
It's Wander.
And if it
Wander
was
the
Wonder,
Void.
I would live up to it too, but it's Wander.
Okay, she has many titles, but the main one she goes by is she's a founder and CEO, the founder and CEO of a worldwide tutoring agency called Worldwise Tutoring. And the second job that she has is something called Educate, Radiate, Elevate, which she's going to tell us all about. So, Lindsey,
Yeah.
thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I love talking about the things I do because I think they're really interesting, and I hope other people find them interesting too. But in a nutshell, as just an overview without getting into too much detail yet, Worldwise Tutoring I started, geez, about 13 years ago. And my intention was to address the underlying issues that people, especially children, were having with learning. And so I wanted to be an extension of support for families and schools on people's learning journeys. And so it is a tutoring company at the core, but it's a lot more than that. And I can definitely go into that in more detail. And then during the pandemic, I decided, one business, let's start a second one. So I also founded a nonprofit organization using all of my knowledge and experience in the education field to create an organization that gave tutoring to low income students for free. And it's still
Hmm.
that extremely high quality, intensive tutoring. And so now I am actively running both of them, and that is my life.
Do you have to have some support staff, right? You have to have. Do you have a right
I do.
hand man or woman? Yeah.
I do. So with Worldwise tutoring, it's the tutors and the families, so it's a lot more of a simple structure. And I also have an assistant who's been with me for several years and pretty much does everything. So she better never leave me because she's a rock star. And then for the nonprofit, oh my gosh, so many. We have a board, we have three committees, we have separate teams for our data, website, marketing, grant writing. I mean, you name it. So that is one area where I think I just didn't really know when I started the nonprofit. Oh, I could start a business. Let me start another one, and not realizing
Yeah.
how different that was going to be. But it's thriving and growing. So I'm learning a lot.
And where are you? Are you ever based? You travel so much. I don't even know if that's an accurate word, but
No,
you
yeah.
live somewhere.
So also in the pandemic, I decided, well, if I just started a second business and my whole life is work, 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 I don't want to sit in the same place every day. I might as well be somewhere beautiful and different every day. And I am very much a wanderer. And so my work-life balance was to sell everything, get everything down to one piece of luggage and hit the road. And so I have been what they call a digital nomad for the past almost 4 years. Um,
Wow.
Moving around within the country, mostly in those cases, I'm seeing family and friends, which is really great because instead of just seeing them for a couple of days, I'm there for a month and I have plenty of time where I can work and then see them in the evenings, for example. And then also internationally, which is also great for a lot of reasons. It's good for me physically health, mental health, and it's just great for my mind to be thrown into environments and kind of have to figure it out. But I'm sure we'll talk more about that too. But yes, it's always a case of where's Lindsay today? Where am I now? And so at this exact moment, I'm in Australia, but I am leaving in a week to New Zealand. I'll be there for a couple months, and then it's just kind of boop, 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 boop from there. So I'm usually somewhere for about a month, and then I kind of move along.
How do you know where you're going next, or how do you choose where you're going?
You know, Life just takes me places. So I usually know my plans a couple, maybe 2 to 4 months in advance. And there's some things I work around, maybe I need to be back for a graduation or a wedding. So there's sometimes things I build around that. But a lot of times it's where I'm at a current place. I have a conversation with someone and then another conversation about the same place and another conversation about the same place. And it's almost like the world is saying, that's it, that's where you're going. And I go. As much as I'm very organized and planned, if you ask any one of my friends, I'm also very follow my gut and kind of go where life takes me. And it's really worked for me, and I just
Hmm.
keep doing it. So I'm definitely a dichotomy in that sense. I'm planned, but only to a certain point, and then I don't know.
Mhm.
Um, I like to just kind of follow where I feel like I'm meant to be.
Hmm. And is this primarily dictated by business or
Oh, no, none
personal
of it has to
fulfillment?
do with business. That is
Oh.
completely a personal decision, with the exception of there are certain times of the year that I do need to be in Illinois or Texas for certain events or certain, situations. So I do dip in there quite frequently into those two states for work-related things. But
Mhm.
for the most part, when I'm deciding where to go, it's more of a personal choice because I can work anywhere. Obviously, you do need to take time zones into consideration. I did spend 3 months in Greece. That was hard. That was really hard for meetings.
Oh.
In Australia, it's not so bad. I'm basically just calling from a day in the future. So that's not as bad. It just means early mornings and kind of adjusting in my head the days. But other than that, it's really a personal choice.
So do you have a home?
I don't. I mean, I
You don't.
do. If the IRS is listening, yes, it's Texas. And I do dip in there, and that's where my residence is. Um, and probably between Illinois, Texas, and California, those are the three states I spend the most time in when I'm in the US. But as far as do I have a place with a bed and a couch that's mine? Um, Not necessarily. I have rooms in various places that are mine when I'm there.
Oh. Well,
But yeah, I'm
you
moving
really are
around.
you really are no, are nomadic.
I am
Okay, so
nomadic.
so we were talking a little bit before I hit that record button about education, and you probably know this. One of I love Mark Twain. One of my favorite Mark Twain quotes is that he said, "I try not to let my schooling interfere with my education," which I always thought was great, which you kind of reference without referencing it in terms of education being something something including, of course, but far larger than the classroom. I was wondering what your thoughts on that might be.
Well, in a related quote, my favorite quote is life is learning and learning is life. Um, because I am a lifelong learner, and I feel like a lot of my hmm, intelligence or education has actually come from outside of books or the traditional classroom setting. And I'm not to say I don't like I read every day. I love reading. But it's not the traditional sense of how you would think learning occurs, is what I mean there. And for me, I personally have just learned a great deal about the world, about history, cultures, people, science, math. I mean, you name it, through experience, in addition to learning a lot about myself, um, and helping me to become better and better. And a lot of that comes from being uncomfortable and putting myself in situations that are different and
Hmm.
force me to problem solve and to think critically and to survive, you know? And with that, I then gain a lot of confidence and independence that then propels me to do more things like that and to lead others in a similar direction. And I'm thankful for those experiences I've had. I probably, if was given the opportunity, I'd still be in school. I love learning, but I also don't like being told what to do or being given busy work and things that I don't think are important. So maybe I wouldn't, I don't know. But I did go to become a teacher. So obviously there's something there about just that learning environment I love, but I think there's more. I think there's
Mhm.
more to learning than what takes place on a campus.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, in reading a bit about you, and as I said before we started, you clearly are interested in um, personal idiographic, you know, specific people, not generalities. How do you teach that? I mean, I have a I have an association where I teach graduate students and psych interns. There's some aspects of psychotherapy. The most important one, you can't teach. You just can't teach them. You can't teach it. I'll give you an example in a minute. But how do you teach a tutor to pay attention to the specifics in a given person?
This was one of the things that I had a hard time with when I basically outgrew myself and got to a position where I had to start hiring people to deliver a service that I was delivering. That's hard. It's not a product, it's an actual service.
Right.
And I actually had a friend of mine, and I quote her a lot, but she said, the first you hire will be the hardest, and then you'll think, why didn't I do this sooner? And it's true.
Oh, that's
And
great.
I put a lot of effort into that first one. And it's very similar to with teaching. I feel like I put a lot of effort into everything in the front, but because I put so much effort into it and think of it from all angles, it is so smooth afterwards. So I always go into it going, yes, this is a lot of work to do it, but it's going to make things easier down the line. So bringing in the first tutors was hard. How do I teach them what I'm doing when a lot of it is so intricate? It's so based off of what's going on with that particular student. So, the scientist in me, which my background is in science, I actually went to school to become a biomedical engineer. I wanted to build the prosthetic arms that your mind could control.
Wow.
I just didn't like the labs. I need to be around people. So that was the hard part for me. But nevertheless, I graduated with degrees in biology and chemistry and math. Um, and I still have that framework as a scientist of constantly observing, constantly looking for patterns and trends and grouping them together, forming a hypothesis about it and testing it out, and then coming back and analyzing it and tweaking it and then trying it again. And so a lot of what I've done over the years in my brain going like this is I put things into paper, into files, into categories as I observed, as I tested them. And that's where people say, wow, you're so organized. It's because my brain is like this, but I have to be organized, right? But what that did is start to create a template for how I could guide others to do the same thing. When you see this, it's a clue that this is probably happening. So here's something you should try, you know,
Hmm.
and giving them that framework. And in developing this over many years now, I've had the constant feedback from my tutors, who are most of them professional educators, that they've never received any training like that before.
Yeah.
And it has completely changed the way they teach, not just our students, but the way that they approach education overall. And all the training I do is optional, and I get people signing up all year long. They're constantly looking for these practical, not just theory. I don't want to talk about things in theory. How do you do it? You have a kid in front of you who's doing this, which means this, so now I need to do that. Like, how do I do it? Um, and I make it very concise and to the point with like resources available to them. And I think that approach with my personal experiences over many years and then my matter of just kind of getting into it and giving them what they need has brought a lot of success and empowered them to be the best they can be for their students. And I see it constantly in feedback from the tutors, from the parents, from the students, that exactly what I want to happen is happening. We actually had a parent come on a meeting a little while ago for the board meeting, and it's like, gosh, the words out of my mouth. My child is so much more confident. My
Good.
child is now being a leader of other people. These are like, how do you teach confidence? How do you teach leadership? I'm doing it. I am doing it. And I have trained my tutors to do it too. And so it's just really cool that it's actually happening.
That's so interesting to me. What do you call it? Like
I
if
call
the
it
question
soft skills, and I don't like that. We need
soft
a
what?
better name, soft skills.
Oh, that's not
It
good.
just sounds weak, right? Soft skills. So I like to, my initially what I would call it was underlying learning and life skills. I like that because it's like the foundation. This is what you need for learning in life.
See,
Then we
I
started
would
moving. Yeah, go
go
ahead.
ahead, sir. I would call it relating.
Okay.
The concept of relating, I spend a lot of my time talking to people about how they don't relate to anybody. I mean, or
Mm,
how their relation skills are poor. And what it boils down to is exactly what you just described. So, I'll ask boyfriend, girlfriend had a fight, he said the wrong thing, she's blah blah blah. So I get all the information I possibly can. Where it happened, when it happened, how it happened, what happened, right? And there's a moment in there where there's some hugely obvious thing, right? Like somebody said the wrong thing, right? Or somebody moved the wrong way. But it's very, very um, it's a very deep seated dyadic interpersonal thing, which you can't teach, but apparently you can. you, you
yeah,
can teach
so
your children
actually,
to do it.
I guess to better answer your question now that I know what you mean a little more, I call it three things. I call it metacognition,
Yeah.
which is thinking about how you think, learning how to learn, right? But that involves self-awareness, self-regulation, emotional intelligence, empathy. There's a lot of other things in there that also bleed into the other two. The second
Mm-hmm.
one is executive functions, which is more about the activities of daily living. What I found early on in my education career is a lot of times if a student was struggling, it was because they were struggling with organization or they were struggling with focus or time management. It wasn't the content. And then that was causing them to get a low grade, for example.
That's right.
So executive functions, we just kind of assume people are going to figure those things out. But no, why? Why? We should teach them. And in fact, if we really want to get clinical about it, the part of your brain that handles executive functions is the last part of the brain to develop, often not until the early 20s, yet we're expecting
Right.
kids in sixth, seventh, eighth grade to handle tasks like this. So we
Right.
provide them shortcuts. It's like I tell my tutors, we're kind of rewiring their brain early, is the simple way of saying it, although you're probably going to go, no, no, no. And then the third one I call interpersonal skills. That is the conflict resolution, the active listening, the leadership, the advocacy. Those are those
Mm-hmm.
kind of things. But it's my attempt to put them into buckets again, like I do, but my disclaimer is always they bleed into each other, and that's awesome. So, kind of working in this area can also help these areas. And by doing this one thing, you're hitting all three, you know? And so, this is my way of trying to take this complex thing and simplify it. But it is a really intricate network of a lot of deeper skills that are really just not taught. And that's why it's kind of, we assume you can't learn them. But I think it's because not a lot of people have ever really tried to teach them. Because I'm telling you right now, they are being taught.
Right. It's interesting. Everybody blames parents for good reason.
Mhm.
I'm a parent, and I'll be blamed, and I'm sure that that's just fine. But theoretically, um, parents aren't good at what they do because their parents weren't good at what they did, and it goes back on and on and on.
Yeah.
But theoretically, parents will teach you the child, how to relate to other people, and
Yeah.
you won't have to instruct them about how to speak and where to move, and right, and that just doesn't really happen that much. Um, there's so many other questions I wanted to ask you. Oh, what are some problems? What's a problem child or a problem family? I was going to go into child psychology until I realized I'd have to deal with the family, and I thought absolutely not.
My God, kids are so easy to me. They're so easy. So going back to that board meeting we just had, the parent and the child that came in, the child was one of our harder kids. He fought tutoring. He didn't want it, and he made it really hard on the tutor. What we did was understood why. Why is he fighting this? Why is he having a hard time connecting? And what can we do to address that rather than just say, that's a hard kid?
Right.
And so we worked with the tutor and with the nonprofit, we do a lot of culturally responsive and trauma informed training that I've developed as well. That helps them to understand the underlying cause of a behavior and that behavior is just an outward expression of something else going on that I can address.
Yeah.
I can address that. The
That's very
behavior is the harder part to address. And my tutors, I mean, I could cry talking about them. They're just amazing. They're amazing. They are willing to go deep with that student. And so with consistency, with clarity, with addressing fears, there's a lot of fear there from the child, a lot of discomfort. By addressing all of that, now in this board meeting, the kid was like, I'm not leaving. This is the best thing ever. He's a sixth grader, but he was basically like, I don't want to stop. Give me any tutor you want. I'm going to be fine. And
Huh.
he's gone through several tutors. So I think that even the ones who are hard, the kids that are hard, if you go past that surface value of what is the behavior and really understand, and it's usually just a handful of things that could cause that behavior, right?
Hmm.
What the cause of that behavior is, that I can address rather than, so it's being proactive rather than reactive, which is a typical parenting 101, right? Kind of planning ahead of time, knowing things that might arise when you see the behavior, backing it up to the cause for it, and then putting things in place so hopefully that behavior doesn't come up in the first place. So that's a lot of what culturally responsive trauma informed training is about. But at the root of it, it's empathy. It's understanding that there's something deeper going on here. They're
Hmm.
not just a bad kid or a hard kid.
Right, of
I
course.
really
No,
don't believe in that.
no, of course, nor do I. And I think, it's not news to you or to me or to some of the people listening, I suspect. But the presenting problem, whether it's the problem that you bring to your psychologist or your tutor or your marriage person or whatever it is, the presenting problem often, unfortunately, is met with people who just want to get rid of it. They just want to solve it.
Yeah.
Just get rid of that because it makes them anxious, right? The kid screaming that makes you anxious, or your spouse or whatever it is. I mean, just stop it, right? As opposed to understanding what you're saying, which is that it's there for really good reasons. I mean, not good reasons, meaning not necessarily unneurotic reasons, but it's not arbitrary. Like these problems are deeply seated. Anyway, I could go on about that. I won't. But that's great. That's great. So another question:
And
what's
I
it
think
like
that
at
might be
work?
one of the reasons why a lot of my tutors give the feedback of how it has a lot of the training has impacted them professionally, but even personally, because I think there's a lot of takeaway from that. And I feel like working with children, I know I'm going to sound crazy when I say this, but it's so much easier than working with an adult. Kids are just so much easier. And so I think learning and practicing these strategies with a kid helps you to start applying them in your professional life, in your relationships with your own children, which is hard because I mean, as a tutor, I always say this to my tutors. I mean, it's like we're magic. We're not a teacher, we're not a parent, we're not a friend, we're not a coach. We're kind of all four. We're just
Hmm.
pure magic for them. And like they listen to us. We're in such a really cool, powerful position that nobody else has. And so our lives are a little easier as tutors because they really do listen to us. But with, great power, what is the quote? With great power comes great responsibility.
Right.
You have to be very careful. And so a lot of my training is also in the small shifts in language, being really careful about very minor things that might have a big impact because kids do soak up everything and then they end up talking to you as an adult because something back from their childhood caused trauma and then now it's perpetrating into their adulthood. And so just really bringing attention to that. Just
Hmm.
be careful about these small little things. Like one of my things that's a pet peeve of mine is talking about strengths and weaknesses. And I think maybe it's a pet peeve is because even as a child, I was told, you're good at this, you're not good at that.
Right.
And I went to what I was good at and stopped with this other stuff. And it limited me. It really did. And it actually influenced my independence and my confidence.
Hmm.
And so a change of language would be instead of strengths and weaknesses, I call them glows and grows. So a glow is something that you're glowing at. A grow is something that we are working at until we can get it into a grow. That's a growth mindset that now sets them up for the future and shows them that really anything can be achieved if they really wanted to. And I really do believe that. So I think that there's a lot to this that now that I'm talking about it, I guess it is a little more complicated, but I think maybe just because I've been doing it for so long, it just seems really natural.
No, it's just to say it again. It sounds to me like you're teaching people how to relate, um,
Yeah.
among other things, which is just such a great thing. If we had more of that, we'd have less of a lot of the bad stuff.
Yeah.
Um, So, okay, so what's it like to be running this empire? I mean, you have two businesses, you're running around all the time. What's that like? Do you have any time for you? I mean, maybe this is all time for you.
Yeah, it's hard, I would say. I definitely have put all of myself into this, but on those days where I'm feeling extra, like today, I was just like, I'm tired. I am tired. I have been going nonstop. Then I get the parent and the kid coming into a meeting talking about how this has just changed their life. And that's kind of my fuel, is like, okay, you're tired, fine. But there's more to it than you. And it almost, in a way, brings me stress relief knowing that there's tutors, there's students. It's like a web, or in the name in the nonprofit, radiate. You're working on these select, I can't do everything, right? But I'm working on these people who now have this ripple effect on others and on others. And I, while the sky is falling around us, have it in the back of my mind. It's okay. The next generation has got this. I work with them. I see them and they're rock stars. It's okay. I hate that we're putting them in this situation, but wow, they're not going to have the same holdbacks that my generation, the generations before me do. They're great. And so it, as much as the day to day is stressful, I do have this very underlying sense of calm,
Mm,
um, that I don't think a lot of people have, especially right now, because I know it's going to be okay.
mm,
Um,
mhm.
because the kids are great. They're great.
So,
Way, way wiser than I was at that age.
yeah, for sure. Um, where did this come? How did your upbringing contribute to this journey, do you think?
So as a kid, I was the adult in my family. So I think I grew up very fast. Even among my siblings, I am more of a parent figure. Um, but I'm still the sibling. So I've had to, I think, from a young age, really learn how to kind of play multiple roles of guiding without forcing or dictating, kind of being like a
That's
resource or a
awesome.
help. So I think that that's natural for me. I'm also not neurodivergent myself. I have ADHD and was not diagnosed until I was an adult. And I can reflect back on several teachers who did exactly what I am doing, excuse me, where they took a much more personalized approach for me because I was a problem. If you ask my mom, I was too smart and I was bored. And so I had behavior issues. And they saw that and then worked with me individually to see me as a human and to kind of meet me where I was. And I think that that made a big influence on my
Mm,
life, so much so that I mean, I ended up in a field where I'm doing the same thing, right? I've also just loved learning. I love learning. I've always loved learning. And I love people and I love bugs and I love plants and anything a lot. I just love living things. And so I think that there's just this desire to just go out there and help things live and live happily, you know?
mhm, mhm. Can you imagine doing something else if you weren't doing this?
Yes. Um, I actually kind of like the stuff that you do. So anything psychology related, I think that that is extremely interesting and impactful. I also do feel, and originally this was a field I was going into, I would probably do something that had more of an impact on the environment and nature. Um, my reason for leaving that field was that's my happy place and my joy, and I didn't want to make it my job.
Mm,
So I started noticing as I was doing research outside, I wasn't enjoying being outside as much. And then I was like, okay, I don't know. This is my space. This is where I go to for my mental health and my wellness. So I think that's the one area that I wish I could find a balance there, and I think I'd be interested in it.
mhm,
Gosh, I think about this a lot because I really do. Again, I really believe. anyone can do anything. And I really think I could do anything. I really do. And so I've always thought like, gosh, what would another career choice I have gone down, And I still think it would have to do with people or living things
Hmm.
and
Do you
pulled
come
there.
from do you come from a family of sciencey people?
Zero.
Oh,
Zero
sorry.
business owners, zero educators, zero science people. Um, I don't know where this came from.
Hmm. Yeah.
I'm trying to think.
Well,
Even among my friends, I mean, I have very few, uh, which makes it lonely sometimes, right? But then I find my network in other ways.
yeah. That's so right. Where to from here? I wonder if you ever, I wonder if you ever feel like Alexander the Great, who apparently cried when he realized there was nothing left to conquer. Do
Oh
you?
God,
Do
no.
you?
No, I,
Yeah.
I almost feel like I haven't done enough. Like there's so much I still want to do. But I feel dragged down by the day-to-day stuff. Like I'm like, ah, I don't want to answer 100 emails. I want to do this, Being a business owner is not all glamorous and it's not all about that front-facing stuff. There's just stuff that has to get done on the back end. Um, so no, I almost feel like I'm running out of time and there's still so much I want to do. So it's the
Did you have
opposite, actually.
the opposite of Alexander? Did were there any mentors who helped you? Any men or women that you saw and thought to yourself, I'd like to do something like that?
I will say that where I lacked in the family department, I have been quadruply blessed in the friends department. And I have had so many amazing friendships that are absolutely 100% invested in me and my
Mhm.
growth and my business. Um, in such a way beyond what a friend would ever think of. So yes, I've had a lot of mentorship from them where they really, even though they're not business owners or they're not educators, they're just phenomenal at being a resource or a guide for me. Um, and then, I mean, there's a lot of things I refer back to even just from my grandma, which I can't talk about too much or I'll cry.
Sorry.
Sorry. But a lot of life lessons. Like I
Hmm.
still, it's been 5 years. I still can't talk about her. But
Yeah, I hear it.
I think a lot of who I am because of her.
Hmm. Hmm.
Sorry. I don't even know
Sorry.
why I attempt because I know I'm going to cry.
Yeah. Right. No, I'm I understand. I understand. How long have you lost her? She's been
It's been
gone.
about 5 years. Gosh.
5 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, about 5 years. But what an incredible person. So
That's amazing. No,
very
that's
thankful.
amazing. Yeah. That's very moving. Yeah, good for you. I think right. Yeah. No, I lost all kinds of people. And
Yeah.
spent I don't know, no exaggeration. The last analysis I was in, I probably spent 3 or 4 years just walking into my analyst office, lying on the couch and crying for 45 minutes, three
Yeah.
times a week.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's just crazy. It's crazy. There's just certain people like I can't even say their names and I'm crying. But
yeah,
what a blessing to have people in your life that move you like that, you know? So
absolutely. And absolutely. And I always think of William Faulkner, who he said this about the Civil War, but he said the thing about the past is that it's not even in the past. And this is an example, where
yeah.
it's I mean, it's the point is not to drown in sorrow as I felt I was going
Oh
to for
no.
many years, but the point is also not to try to break. The point is also not to try to distance yourself from it because
Right.
these are people who gave you amazing things and they're still alive in you, right? And every so often they come up and they say hello, and then you think, oh no, yeah,
Yeah.
I get it, I get it.
Yeah. I've had to definitely reshape my vision of grief and that it's actually a good thing, that it's not a weakness or a negative. So
Yeah. Among I'm here. This is a complete little sideway
yeah,
sidebar.
sorry.
Um, but one of my favorite pieces that Freud wrote was called Mourning and Melancholia, and I think it's only 6 pages long. And it's almost only about the difference between pathological and healthy grieving, and the only difference is that in pathological grief you blame yourself. All the
Mm.
other symptoms are exactly the same,
Huh.
and
Yeah,
his
it's
explanation for
interesting.
that his explanation for that was that's how we don't let go of them. I mean, lots of
Yeah.
ink has been spilled on that, but
Oh, for sure.
anyway,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if I have to do this every once in a while to never forget her or anybody else who I've lost, then totally worth
yeah,
it. But I
yeah,
do think that these I've had, her, I've had my grandpa, I've had several other people who I've lost who have just been very big driving forces. Maybe I don't even realize how much they've impacted me in wanting to do everything I can to help others.
yeah,
So that's like a living legacy for sure.
yeah. I mean, that's a good lesson too. That's I certainly got that out of my work. That as tired as I am, or irritable, or irritating, if I feel that I'm giving something back, I feel better. I just feel better.
Yeah,
It's like, well, yes, I did that.
it's
Um,
true. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. What do you what do you do for fun?
So I'm definitely an outdoorsy person.
Uh,
I love anything outdoors and active, like hiking, paddle boarding, just walking. I love people who travel with me know that I'm not going to get in a cab. I'm not going to, maybe we'll take a bus, but I just want to walk. Oh, are you still there?
yeah,
Did
I'm
I
here.
lose you? Okay, cool.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, I love being outside. Also traveling, obviously, is a big enjoyment for me. I, with the ADHD, have learned that I need to move a lot. And so I've found a lot of enjoyment and happiness in running and weights and Pilates, anything physical
Mhm.
brings me a lot of happiness. And I like to sleep. I really like sleeping. So
It's a good
that
thing.
is definitely something I will make time for. If I don't get sleep, there's people who are hangry. I'm not that way, but I need a word for if I don't get enough sleep, I'm not good. I'm not good. So sleep is definitely a hobby. Can I call that a hobby? I
Sure.
love to sleep.
Yeah, I do too. I took my daughter to Bermuda a few months ago, and it was off season, which we knew, and I was perfectly fine because I spent a lot of the time napping,
Yeah.
sleeping. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, and I would even say to that too, again, maybe just 'cause I'm a people person, but I love being around my friends and my family. I love my nieces and nephews. I'm so obsessed. They bring me so much happiness. Um, so I would say that's definitely another thing where I'm like, that's my happy place. And I guess a hobby is being around all my loved ones.
All right, Lindsay. What else can we get into here? There's so much more. I have a whole list. Is there something that we haven't talked about that you'd like to? Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Mhm. No, that's what? That's not very what? Yeah, for sure. Right, and it's so crucial. Education is just so incredibly crucial. Huh? Yeah. Well, what can I say? It's so impressive. You are so impressive in things that you're doing. Um, I could talk to you all evening. Let's just spend a little time about the second business. How do you how do you get your kids? How do you find your kids? Mhm. 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 Yeah. And is the second business in the U.S. only, or is it also abroad? Mhm. Mm. Wow. Wow. Mhm. Have you, it's online everywhere. Yeah, before we sign off, tell our audience all your contact information. Have you ever encountered, I'm sure you have, the, uh, the stipulations by state on what you can and can't teach? Huh. Is that right? Right. That's great. So you you don't have to teach evolution. Um, mm, mhm, mhm. That's great. That's great. All right. Well, I could do this all night. Thank you so much for being on the program. I really really enjoyed it, and I'm sure the folks listening did too. Um, why don't you give your contact information? That's lovely. Lovely, lovely. Lindsey, thank you so much. Okay. All right. This is Mental Health and Business signing off. We'll see you next time. Bye.